Good day, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Todd Standing. I am the man who takes people out into the field and has me to live interact with or ride with Sasquatch. Today, I'm doing a throwback video, an awesome throwback about a Sasquatch hand that I filmed. And I'm actually going to let, there's this amazing guy that was online a few years ago. His name is Cryptid Seeker. I'm going to do lots of his videos. He did reviews of my footage and my videos, and I'm going to do director's commentary reviews of the hard work that he put into it that I'm really impressed with. I love it when people do stuff like this. I'm actually going to be critiquing other people's work of mine, or not critiquing, but I'm the guy that was there. I was boots on the ground. I know what was going on. And these guys that take stuff and manipulate it and shift it around, even this is a very impressive review based on this gentleman having very little knowledge of me, and I'm going to help straighten a few things out, organize a few things. We're going to talk about Sasquatch's hand. This is a cast from Jeff Meldrum, which I believe, and he also believes, is a handprint from a Sasquatch. So this is where the thumb would be. These are the fingers. So they have absolutely enormous hands. I want to address something too that keeps coming up from all these haters. And what people will do is they'll take a little piece of information, and then they'll blow it up. So they'll take a little truth and explode it into something enormous. I went out and I took this YouTuber who's pretty famous, Solo Phil, I think is his name. Took him on a little walk around. They didn't say an expedition. I offered them like an overnight and a little time in the bush. They couldn't do it. They were terrified to stay a day in my trailer about 45 minutes from the city on a road that people drive on. So he went home sucking his hand with his girlfriend. And the other girl that was there with me, even she didn't spend the night, so it was very unfortunate. This was not a tough expedition. This was a pansy expedition I could take a 70-year-old on, and they had a really hard time. It was tough. So, but anyways, what happened, the controversy with that expedition was that people are talking about a lot, is there was a hand found in the back. It was a gorilla hand from a little kid's gorilla costume. What happened was, I have a brother-in-law who's a kooky, funny, outgoing guy, and in the wintertime, I live in Canada. In the wintertime, I don't put gloves on to scrape my truck off. So his little boy had a gorilla costume, and he gave me the little gorilla hands for it, and I would just jokingly put them on and scrape my truck off. They were just little tiny gorilla hands, actually gorilla gloves that fit my hands. If you buy the gorilla gloves that come with the adult gorilla costume, they're pretty big. These were from the little kid gorilla costume. They found the little gorilla hand, and now people are all up in arms because one glove was found in the back of my truck. And I've never filmed a small Sasquatch hand, as you're going to see in this video. I filmed a giant one. So, and beyond that, there's been nothing. So I don't know what the big thing is. I mean, for God's sake, I was on an expedition. This kind of stuff has bothered me. I've stayed away from special effects guys. I've stayed away from taxidermists. I've stayed away from any kind of costumes and stuff like that. Like, I've feared it because dumbasses will blow this crap out of proportion. On my last expedition, the guys that came out were really fun, and they actually brought a Sasquatch mask. And man, I'm terrified. I don't know what to do with the damn thing. I'm afraid to go throw it in the garbage. Someone will take a picture of me throwing a Sasquatch mask in a garbage, and this crappy Sasquatch mask. And he jokingly brought it out and had some fun because they're just fun guys. They were having a fun expedition. It was totally cool, and I respect that they did it. But I never got over that fear of, oh my God, don't get a picture with me holding a Sasquatch mask, because it'll just fuel these meatheads who say stupid stuff. They just come up with the dumbest things. My sister is not a special effects makeup artist. My dad never dated a woman who owned a fabric store. I don't know. Just the stupidest things come up, and it's just preposterous. So I have to address them. I apologize. That's what happened on the Solo Phil thing. And so let's go through this step by step right now. Let's have some fun. It says in this video, I'll be analyzing the video by Todd Standing of the supposed Sasquatch grabbing an apple. This analysis will seem more complicated, so be prepared. It is very complicated. I really enjoyed it. I wouldn't say this is an extremely accurate analysis, but again, I could be close. I'm going to critique that accuracy. The footage is slightly harder to work with, but I took it to a pretty nice level. I agree. It was tough footage to work with, but it does a great job. Todd showed us his apple setup, two large apples with a smaller one in the middle, and a bag of more smaller apples to the side. That's all accurate. I agree. Now I'll show you the middle apple. Number 2 is the same size as the apples in the bag. Let's have a look at that, please. So he's got us in a program. It's going to get scale size of the apples. That's the apple. Same size as the apples in the bag. These are red delicious apples, but I'm going to agree with his assessment of the sizes. That's the apple with the top. Puts that over there. This apple right here is just a little bit bigger. I guess apples vary in size, obviously. But from what I've watched very closely with all the work that he's done with scale, he's doing an excellent job of keeping it very accurate, like plus or minus 10%, guys. So the large apple is on the side, double the height. It's correct. And so right here he says, and there's a bag of 5 apples, just like the bags in the videos. Here I'm assuming Todd buys the same bag of apples. They're all about the same size. He gave apples, which would mean they should be about the same size, which they are. If I'm wrong, this analysis won't be as accurate, but it's still possible. So I'm totally in agreement. I mean, he's using excellent accuracy here. Plus or minus 10%. Can't go wrong with that. So that is accurate. That is accurate. I never buy small Macs. I always buy the medium-sized Red Delicious, the Galas. I don't even buy Spartans. Spartans are a little smaller. I know quite a bit about apples, I guess. So I like the Galas. I like the Red Delicious. Here we have Jeff Meldrum holding the same apples from that bag, which is correct. So here's Jeff Meldrum. He's a big dude. He's tall. And that looks totally accurate to me. Totally accurate. I completely agree with that assessment. Again, plus or minus 10%. Puts that apple there. That's accurate. That's the size of that apple. I'm in very much agreement. Since the apple number 2 matches the size of the apples in the bag, which is supposedly the same bag of apples, which it is, would usually buy, we can compare the size of the hands in Jeff and the Bigfoot by scaling the apples to that same size. Totally agree. In the video comparison you're about to see, I've already scaled the apples to the same size by overlaying them. Excellent idea. So there's the apple. There's the hand grabbing the apple that I didn't know was being filmed. Look at the way the hand is look at the way the hand moves too. It's really expressive. Clearly a much larger hand. I agree. Much larger. There's something that he doesn't talk about, though, that he missed here. So there's that apple being grabbed. You know who was crawling on the ground there grabbing that apple? That was the little Sasquatch of the group. There was a 17-inch track, a 16-inch track. That's the 14-inch guy. So that big hand is the small Sasquatch. There he is taking it. So that's taking apple number 1. So what's not in this analysis, which is absolutely critical, is that's not the big Sasquatch. So in the next height comparison, I have scaled the shot of Jeff's hand holding the apples to fit onto a full body image of him. Very good idea. I've also scaled the hand to a Bigfoot to fit Jeff's full body image. The apples are of the same size, which will show how big a person would have to be if they had that hand size. Excellent idea. Finally, I added the Bigfoot hand to the Patterson-Gimlin Bigfoot. This will show us how tall a Bigfoot would be since the body proportions are different. I agree. Good idea. In simple terms, all the apples are scaled to the same size, which will show us how tall the hoaxer or the Bigfoot would be. There's no hoaxer. This is legit footage. I outline the hand by studying the footage carefully and seeing the movement in the frames. I agree with this. It's very accurate. This is plus or minus 2%. So there's Jeff, all scaled up, all the apples. That's how big the being would have to be in proportion. What's missing from this, though, I feel, is that Sasquatch proportionally may have bigger hands. And the Sasquatch hands show flexibility, which means a loose glove would not have been used. Therefore, the hand would not have been so large, even if you wear a thick glove. I agree with that. I do. I think that's agreeable. The results suggest that the hand is too big to be human. I agree. However, the accuracy of this test is uncertain. I am in very much agreement. It's definitely a possibility, to say the least. It's not a possibility. You're plus or minus 10%, my friend. One thing to consider is why an intelligent hoaxer would risk the expensive hoax's clear Bigfoot images by simply wearing a glove. In this hoax, it just doesn't make any sense. I can't speak on behalf of what a hoaxer would do. This is real footage. This analysis might be accurate, which in the end only strengthens Todd's claims of filming a real Sasquatch, which I have, and it is real. Because of the running Sasquatch he filmed, that's video 3, his other footage is like this one becomes more credible, in my opinion. I totally agree with him. The man's footage is consistent and I would not be disappointed if he somehow faked it. Instead, I'd be intrigued to know how he pulled this off so well. That makes sense to me. I did some work that's really, really important for everybody to know. So the 16-inch Sasquatch, which is about a 16-year-old Sasquatch, from my knowledge and perspective, he's not fully grown. He's a male, but he's got a 16-inch foot. He's the one making the sounds, having a good time with me initially. And then the big male that comes in, and again, I was being very conservative in my numbers. That was about a 17.75-inch male, 900 pounds, more than 900 pounds, that male that growled at me and knocked me, scared me, and I fell down. Didn't scare me, but just shocked me. You can literally, as expeditioners of experience, you can literally feel that rattle in your chest, guys. It's not like a bear. It's like it's a deep, like the sound, it gutturally, it hits you, like you feel your ears moving from that base. So it's almost like you were touched by sound. So it pushes you back. That's why I reacted like that. But I calmed right down because that's what I do. That's what I have to do. I have to do that to be there. I've got to have my serenity. And as much as it kind of shocks me to scare me, that's what I'm there for. I'm moving forward. And you'll hear me kind of like I'm smiling right now because it's amazing to be able to be there and have those interactions. So the 16-inch and also that 16-inch talking to me like that, man, that stoked me right up. But what I've also looked into in my records too that I found is when I say 14-inch track, that's not actually correct. That's a 13.5-inch track. I believe that's a male Sasquatch it is a male Sasquatch based on the width and the weight as well, because the tracks I found from that 13.5-inch Sasquatch were significant. But what I really want you to get into your head is, so as he's got these proportions all laid out, that it would be a huge being that did that. Like if it was a man, he'd be an enormous man that did that. It's only a 13 or 14-year-old Sasquatch. If his foot is only 13.5 inches, which it was, and it's going to grow to 17 inches, you could understand he's got a lot of growing to do. So that hand that you're seeing there, this is why I hope, sit down for a second. That hand that you're seeing there is from approximately, I would actually say that's a 13-year-old Sasquatch. It's plus or minus a year. So maybe he's 12, I sure hope not, and maybe he's 14. So to be accurate, to be right in the middle, so in my experience with all the knowledge I have, which is significant of tracks over the years that I've seen, that's definitely not a fully grown Sasquatch taking that. So you're seeing a smaller hand. He's going to get bigger. His feet's going to get bigger. His hands are going to get bigger. So even proportionately, I mean, his hand's going to grow 30%, conservatively, if his track goes from 13.5 to 17, which it did and does. So really, really appreciate that video. Last thing I want to note that's really important that I don't know if people are getting it, but that Sasquatch is actually lying down. So he had to kind of crawl in. If he had stood up, I would have seen him. So he's crawling right in. And remember what's happening too is, so if I'm in line right now, I'd say this is in line with where the apples are. The Sasquatch that is initially talking to me, the 16-inch, is over this way in that alignment. And then when the big guy comes around and sets me back a couple steps, I literally proportionately go like this. You see what's happening? I'm being drawn away from looking at the apples because I had no clue they were being taken. I suspected that, but believe me, it wasn't even on my mind. And after this whole incident happened in the movie, you hear me say, what happened to the apples? So I was super happy that I got that footage, but note for the record that Sasquatch had to crawl in on all fours and reach out, and even in the trackway that I saw, that was also something that was impressive to me. As you can see in the moss where he stopped, and the arm length, man, I wish I had some video for that because I didn't go film it. I got there and I sat there and I had a good look. So it was a long arm that reached and grabbed that apple. Not just a big hand, but a long arm, because I could just see the way the moss was flattened and the length that arm would have had to been, and even noting that he was grabbing the apples closer to him first, which makes sense, right? You get closer, and that last one you really want to extend for. And so that's how that happened. A really long, and the impression on the ground was heavy. It was a big, huge. I mean, that Sasquatch at 13 years old approximately, I mean, his body weight, he must have been 400 pounds. Big. Like, it was big, heavy imprints. I couldn't make those imprints in the ground with my body. I wouldn't have, if I would have crawled through there, you wouldn't have seen evidence of me at 230 pounds. So just a heavy impression from a heavy muscled Sasquatch. I'm not even going to say being. I'm not going to play punches about it. So I appreciate these little sequences that have been done by people. I'm also going to start talking about the negative ones that have been done from me that I want to look at, because I can see how they're really just immensely at fault, and the mistakes they've made, the truths about them that are impressive to me, and the faults in the things that they've done. Like the fault in this was, you saw in the video, there's a 14-inch track there. That's a 14-inch Sasquatch that took it. And in my records, the definitive exact length, because when I'm out there in the field, I don't often have a tape measure, but it is a 13.5-inch track now. And I'm also seeing the 16-inch track is a 15.75-inch track. These little bits of information make a difference. When that Sasquatch goes from 15.75 to 16-inch, as he gets bigger, I have to note that in the record as time goes on, or as that 14-inch goes to 15, goes to 16, I'm noticing those time indications and getting approximations on age. And this has been happening. I've been doing this for almost 2 decades now. So since 2005, I've been really, really focused on this, analyzing this, seeing this in the field. That's where my area of, perhaps you call expertise, comes from. And every year, it's like this. This year, we must have found a dozen different trackways from Sasquatch, and followed them and looked at them, studied them, given our perspectives on them. And a lot of people, even this year, that have come in that are experts on anatomy. Jeff Meldrum, anatomy and anthropology, a colleague of mine. So lots of amazing stuff going on with this discovery process moving forward. Thank you very much for tuning in today. There'll be our podcast is on Saturday, and another Sasquatch Sunday coming up in a few days. So stay tuned for that. Until then, take care.